Hey everyone, one more week and 3 beautiful recipes for you today. We're gonna have a Mexican themed episode with 3 delicious treats. I've got a beautiful salad, it's gonna be fresh, it's gonna be light, and it's gonna have a bit of our Mediterranean and Spanish influence in it. We are also gonna make some steak tacos, and to finish off, instead of a dessert, I'm gonna give you an alternative and give you a vegetarian option. So I think we should get started with the salad and give this a go. So our salad today is going to be really simple and easy. It's going to be very fresh, but I'm going to add in some morcilla or blood pudding and some chorizo. So to get this salad started, we're just going to heat up the chorizo and the morcilla first. I'm going to get about a chunk of each, but if you're making this for more people, you can use 2. And what we're going to do is just slice it thinly and diagonally. We want these to be visible in the salad. And then we can always cut them up afterwards. But what we want to do is fry them and let the fat sort of melt off this and have all that flavor come out of the chorizo. So I'm going to put it flat in your pan and let this heat up. So I haven't added any oil to the pan. It's just going to go in there straight away. Just make sure that the pan is quite hot. And the fat and everything that's going to come out of the chorizo is going to be the oil itself. If we put too much oil in there, it's just going to crisp it too fast and it's going to burn. I'm going to do the same to the morcilla. We're just going to add everything in here. And we'll keep an eye on this and sort of flip it around and make sure that each side is cooked. Whilst that's cooking away, now we'll start with the dressing. So the dressing is going to be very simple. So we're going to get red wine vinegar and we'll add a splash in here. We're going to get some whole wheat mustard or Dijon mustard, whatever kind of mustard you prefer. I'm going to add a nice generous dollop in there. We're also going to get 1 garlic. Make sure that you peel it and crush it into there. Mix it all together and season it with a pinch of salt as well. So let this sit to one side. Just make sure that you whisk everything together so that it thickens. The mustard mixes with the vinegar and everything combines. So we're going to leave this to one side. That way all the different flavors can combine in the meantime. We're going to check on our chorizo and morcilla, flip them over, and when they're almost done, add in our beans, because the beans make the salad sort of the body of the salad, so we'll make it what it is. So we're going to add in a different range of beans, a different variety of beans into our mixture. Now you can use 1 and you can use cannoli beans or haricot beans if you want the small white ones, but you can also buy tinned mixed of salad beans, which is a lot easier. They're already soaked, they're soft, you can just cook them straight away. So it's a nice little hack there, a little trick. Right, so what you want to start to see is the chorizo sort of cooking on the outside, that oil and that paprika, that fat melting and coming out and mixing together and combining it with everything. That's going to mix with the beans when we add it in here and give everything a really rich flavor. Right, so after a couple of minutes, the chorizos are nearly done. We're going to add in the beans in there straight away. It's going to mix with everything. It's going to start to fry. And we just have to make sure, that we just stir everything together and cook this on a slow, low, medium heat, just so that everything sort of combines, everything warms up, the beans lose that extra water that they have from the tin. And it's just gonna make this really, really tasty. So now it's time to start constructing our salad. We're gonna get a big bowl, and in here, we're gonna add in the leaves, the onions, so a nice crisp, cold, fresh onion, and some vine or cherry tomatoes, whichever you prefer. We're going to add everything in there. So we're going to just slice the onions. About half an onion should be fine for one bowl. What we're going to do is just slice it down. You want it to be like in little strips. And then we'll just, using our hands, just separate each bit of the onion in here. And we're just gonna just sort of pour this in here. We'll do the same with some tomatoes. Make sure that we wash these and get about 3 or 4 tomatoes. We're gonna add these in here as well. We're gonna get a mixture of leaves. We've got rocket, lamb's lettuce, we've got different types of salad lettuce in here. So you can buy these already sort of pre-packed and everything. We're just gonna mix this all in here. And now we'll add in our mixture of beans and our chorizo and everything. It's all gonna be hot, it's gonna mix in there. We're gonna stir everything together. And then get our dressing, which we did before, and just sort of sprinkle this on top and dress everything. So we're gonna have the mixture of the hot paprika, the chorizo, everything together, but then you're gonna have that sharp, fresh taste of the dressing with the mustard and the red wine vinegar and everything, and the onion, which is gonna make this also very refreshing. So we can serve this up. I'm gonna finish another salad bowl, and then we're gonna get started with our main course, which is gonna be first a steak taco. Our Mexican feast continues now with a beautiful steak taco. I'm gonna make this taco very, very simple, but we're gonna make our very own beautiful, fresh, sharp salsa. We're gonna make it with tomatoes, we're gonna make it with coriander, onion, garlic, and a bit of lime. That's gonna make it that fresh, citrusy taste. So these steak tacos are gonna be done very simply. We're gonna season some beef fillets with some salt and crush some garlic and just rub it on top. So steak is great when it's done simply, like just very, you know, just seasoned very lightly, and it gives it like a bit of flavor. We're gonna just cook these until they're medium and a bit pink inside, but just medium done. So we'll crush some garlic and we're just gonna rub this on. And whilst this is sort of seasoning, this is being marinated and everything with the garlic, we're just gonna let this sit to one side, and in the meantime, prepare our dressing. Because like I said, we're gonna make our very own homemade salsa. So the base of this salsa is gonna be uber simple. We're gonna get some tomatoes, just cut off the top, break it down into smaller little pieces, and add this into the food processor or a blender, whichever you have. We're gonna make a bit more salsa than we would need, because like I told you before, we're gonna make 2 main courses. We're gonna make a steak taco, and we're also gonna make a vegetarian enchilada. So we're gonna have leftover sauce for that. We're gonna get some onions in here. So half an onion, which we're also gonna chop up. And get 2 little garlic cloves in there, and then once this is sort of mixed, I'm going to add in a squeeze of lime juice. So we're going to mix this in here and then drizzle in some olive oil as well. So once your tomatoes, your onions, your garlic, everything's sort of blended together and crushed, we're going to add in the remainder of the ingredients for this sauce. So I'm going to get some roast peppers, which are already quite oily, add it in here. So about 3 little peppers should be okay, but we can adjust this as we go. We're gonna get drizzle of olive oil as well, just a healthy drizzle in there. A bit of salt in there, because we always need to add and season it. And we're gonna continue to crush this and blend it together. And just before we're done, we're gonna add in that final kick, that citrus flavor of half a lime juiced. So we can break it down and then just squeeze it in. Make sure that you don't get any pips if there are any. This one doesn't have any, so perfect. Squeeze it in and get all that freshness in there. And we'll finish this off with one final little blend. Okay, until it's all perfectly blended together, and we can even give it a little taste. Yeah, it's fresh, it's sharp, but it's not too sharp. So if you find that it's a bit acidic, you can add in a pinch of sugar in there. That's going to balance everything out, make it nice and soft and smooth, and just cancel out that acidity that you get from the onions and sometimes the tomatoes, which are quite sharp. So now it's time to prepare our tacos. We're going to get peppers, red and green, and just slice this up. What I'm going to do, which you can do at home, is either use a sort of a grill or a parrilla, or if you have a griddled pan, you can use that. And we're just going to sort of cook everything a la plancha. And that way it's all going to get all smoky and beautiful. And we're going to put this straight onto the heat so that it starts to cook, it starts to fry and sizzle away. So we can use red peppers or we can use green peppers. The bell peppers are a bit sweeter than the sort of green long frying peppers. So I find them quite nice for this because it works with the sauce and it works with everything. So we're going to add in just a few of these. And we're going to do the same with the onion. And we're also going to chop up a few of the vine tomatoes which we had left over from before. Now I like to use red onions because I find red onions a bit sweeter than normal white onions, but there's no right or wrong for this. And while this is frying away on your griddled pan or on your plancha, whatever you have at home that you're going to use, just drizzle a bit of oil on top. Just to this. And while this is frying away on your griddled pan or on your plancha, whatever you have at home that you're going to use, just drizzle a bit of oil on top. Just to give it that olive oil, beautiful flavor, and it helps with the frying as well. It's going to char this, it's going to give this really crisp outside taste, and it's going to make this really smooth, soft as well. And a bit of salt, and a bit of pepper as well. We're going to add a bit of pepper on top. And now we're going to prepare the meat. So we had the meat which we sort of marinated or we seasoned before with the garlic and the salt. This is just going to be fried on there on top. But we're going to wait for the vegetables to be cooked a bit, flip them over, and then we're going to add the meat, because the meat's going to, as it's really thin, so make sure you ask your butcher to cut it very thin, so like at least 5 millimeters thick. It's going to cook straight away. And we don't want to overcook this, we don't want this to be tough, we want it to stay soft and a bit pink in the middle. So once it starts to sizzle and fry and char, and you can see that everything is softening up, you just start to rotate everything a bit. It's time to cook the meat. So the meat is already been seasoned. It's been sat there. It's going to be mixing with all the flavors. The salt is really going to bring out all that taste from the steak or the fillet. You can also use chicken. You can use pork with this. It doesn't really, there's no right or wrong. Just if you do use pork or chicken, make sure that you do cook it through. We're going to now prepare the steak or the meat. So we're going to get our sort of fillets, and we're just going to cut them down into thinner strips. Just so that it's easier, and then it's going to be quicker for us to prepare our tacos. So we're just going to put these straight onto here. And pour this on. And drizzle a bit of oil as well onto here so it doesn't stick. So we'll let this cook for a moment. We'll flip them round. And once this has been here just a few minutes, so that you can see that it starts to char on the outside, starts to sort of go nice and brown and crisp. We'll just flip them over to cook each side and sear the outside, and then we'll take them off. Because meat is best when you take it off the heat, but let it sit for a few minutes. We don't want to just take it straight away, otherwise it's going to become too firm and too rubbery, and it's always juicier and better if you just let it sit to one side. So whilst everything else is finishing off, and we cook the rest of the meat, we'll just let this sit here. And like I said, because it's thin, it's not going to take very long to do at all. And now it's time to prepare the boats. So we're going to get some salad leaves. You can get lettuce and stuff. Put it in there. Then we're going to get the vegetables which we cooked. So you get some peppers, get some of the onions in there. So get a bit of everything. And now we're going to get some of the meat. So just add in a couple of slices in here of the meat. Depends how big the container is. And I'm going to finish this off with a drizzle of the sauce that we made on top of here. Just make sure you cover this up. And instead of using cheddar cheese or any other cheese, you can use Monterey Jack cheese, cheddar cheese. I'm going to use some feta because it's going to give it just a bit of a fresher taste, I think. And it's going to work well with the sauce that we made. So just crumble some feta onto there. And finally, we're going to get that herb which I love. It's some coriander. So we're just going to get a few coriander leaves. Just crush that on top. And we can serve this up like that. So that's it. You have a perfect taco. You got all the different layers. You got vegetables, leaves. You have the meat. You got the fresh salsa. And finished off with a beautiful fragrance of the coriander and the fresh taste of that cheese, that feta cheese which we added in there. So now it's time to give this a taste and see what beautiful creation we've made. That is delicious. The meat is nice and tender, beautiful. It's nice and juicy. That sauce which we've made ourselves is gorgeous because it's nice and fresh and cold, which is great on this, and the cheese which is cold. So this is a win for me. I'm going to finish off by making all the different tacos and eating it all. So I'll see you for the next round with our vegetarian enchiladas. Vegetarian version of our very favorite enchiladas. So these enchiladas are going to be made of black beans, broccoli, butternut squash, onions, peppers, some of the usual suspects. But like I said, broccoli and black bean and the butternut squash are really what's going to give this all that body and all that flavor. So we're going to start off with frying and sauteing some onions. So we're going to finely chop some onions here. Just slice them down. And we're going to fry these until they become soft and translucent. So an onion should be enough for this. Now I've said before, don't worry if you make too much, because you can always store this and make some the next day or use the ingredients for something else later on. So once you've chopped these down, in a big deep pot, just pour in some oil. So a bit of olive oil in here. And add in the onions. So just leave this here sizzling away until they start to soften up and become a bit translucent. Just stir them around. And in the meantime, we're going to prepare the rest, which is going to be the butternut squash, chop them down, and the broccoli, which we're going to chop down. So we're going to get our broccoli chunks and just break these down. Cut the ends of the stems off if you see that they go a bit brown or that they're too firm. And just cut these down. So a whole broccoli, maybe half a broccoli, might be enough for this. Alternatively, if you don't want to use broccoli because you don't like it, you can use cauliflower. It's pretty much the same, texture's the same, just the flavor is slightly different. So this we're going to place to one side because once those are soft and translucent, we're going to add these in there. Chop up the butternut squash and add that in there as well. So the onions are now a bit softer. We're going to add in the broccoli. And we're going to saute the broccoli in here with everything. So with the onions and the oil. So leave that there one moment and chop up butternut squash. And we're going to cut these really small so that they cook a lot faster. So we're going to dice these down. Now these are quite meaty, quite firm. So they might take a bit longer to cook, but it's fine because it's also going to be more like the meatiness to this enchilada because they're going to be a lot firmer. So we're going to pour this in here too. And you can add a whole half of a butternut squash in there. And to this, along with the butternut squash, the broccoli and the onions, I'm going to add in a red bell pepper. We're going to slice this down as well and let this all stew together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this all in the pot, cover it with a lid and leave it for at least 10 minutes so everything stews and steams and just cooks itself. These have been here for about 8 to 10 minutes now. The butternut squash are softer. Everything is being cooked and steamed and it's just lovely blending together. It's time to add in the spices and the herbs and a bit of the spinach. So we're going to add in about a handful of spinach in here. Let this reduce. And we're also going to add in some of the seasoning. So we have some ground cumin, which I'm going to just about a tablespoon or teaspoon is enough for this, and a pinch of cinnamon because this is going to make this really sweet and this is going to give this a nice fragrance as well. And finally, we're going to crush in some black pepper. So all this needs to be stirred together. Mix everything up in here. Make sure that you start to stir it and you flip it over and you fold it over each other just so that those herbs and the spices just mixes in here. And with that done, chicos and chicas, we're gonna put this into the bowl. So we're gonna get everything and put it in here. This needs to come off the heat. And without burning yourself, transfer it into a bowl. So that's reduced loads, everything's shrunk. You can see that the butternut squash is nice and soft when you squeeze it, and that the broccoli has also gone a bit smaller. So we're gonna get the salsa now and add this in with our bowl of all our vegetables together. And we're gonna just pour this in here. So maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons in here should be enough. And we're gonna stir it all together. And at the same time, we're gonna add in the black beans. Now these black beans are tinned ones, which have already been in the water, they've already been soaked. We're just gonna drain them, wash them, and then pour them straight in here as well. And put that in there. And just stir it all together. We don't want this to be too watery because it's gonna otherwise make our enchiladas very wet. And after, we're gonna add in the cherry tomatoes, which are there. We're gonna keep those raw, and we're gonna keep those sort of whole. So we're gonna get those, and all we're gonna do is just slice them up and pour them in there. Get about maybe 4 or 5, get a few different colors, because the great thing about this dish is that it's really colorful and it's going to be really flavorful because everything in here pretty much is quite sweet and everything is going to work perfect with each other. And we're going to stir this all together and get a bit of a cheese. So about a handful of cheese in here, we're going to mix this up and just move this around. And if we want, we can give this a taste. So we'll just get a bit here. That is wonderful. That is already full of flavor and really soft. We're gonna add in a little bit more sauce in here, a bit more salsa. Just pour this in and mix this in as well. But save some salsa. We don't want to use it all because this is gonna go on top of everything with some more cheese before it goes in the oven. So we're gonna move this around. And now it's time to assemble our enchiladas and put them all into a big, deep oven dish, because that's gonna go into the oven, covered with salsa and covered with cheese, sit in the oven about 190 for 20 minutes or so until the cheese starts to go golden and everything inside sort of seals, and it's just gonna be delicious. So all we're gonna do now is get our large wheat wraps. You can get some whole wheat ones or some plain flour ones. Sometimes the flour ones are a bit easier to use. So we're gonna put that in there. Now we're gonna place this in the middle of our wraps in here. Get a nice generous amount. If you like coriander, get a bit of coriander now, and then just sort of sprinkle it in there as well. And then we're gonna make sure that we fold this completely. So we can fold in the ends and wrap it around. And as it is here, just put it upside down into your oven dish. We're gonna repeat this until we can fit as many as we can in here, and then drizzle some salsa over it, some sauce over it, cover it with cheese and put it in the oven. Now, once you've got as many as you can into the oven dish that you can fit, because sometimes it's gonna be nice and tight and snug, we're gonna cover this, like I said, with some salsa on top. Just drizzle it nice and generously there, spread it over. And nice, healthy, generous amount of cheese laid on top. This is gonna go really golden, beautiful, nice and melted and soft. It's nothing better than melted cheese than that. So I'm gonna put this in here. And like I said, into the oven. We'll check it out in about 10-20 minutes, see how it's going. Once the cheese starts to go nice and golden and it's gonna be all nice and melted, that should be enough. And this will be enough time for that to come out of the oven. So straight in here. Right, so that's perfect. The cheese nice and golden and melted. The tortillas on the side are really baked and perfectly nice and dry on the sides. And the sauce, which is going to be nice and moist and tomatoey on top. So I think it's time to just let it sit for a moment, cool down a little bit, and then it's time to serve it and give it a try. So let's cut this open, see what's going on inside. So you can see that the enchiladas here are nicely tucked in, full of meat, full of flavor, all nice and crisp on top. And it's perfect to just cut into it and take it all in one big bite. Oh yeah. So it's a perfect vegetarian version of our favorite Mexican enchiladas. So if you like this recipe and if you like this episode, then give it a try. Let me know if you've tried them. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you all next week with more recipes and our last episode for this season. So I'll see you all very, very soon.
You can check out these tasty recipes and much more by picking up a Mama Lotties cookbook or visiting mamalotties.com.